Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that every single day celebrates coastal Mississippi and the people who work so hard to make it such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, one of the things I often talk about, and I'll just keep, I'll always continue to talk about this, and that is that we're lucky in that we're a collection of communities. Each community has its own unique sense of place, and then we come together in this very powerful region, which is the economic engine that drives the state of Mississippi. So goes Mississippi, so goes coastal Mississippi, so goes the state of Mississippi. And I think there are very few people who would argue with that reality. When it comes to visitors who come here, or people who live here, who may venture into other cities because they appreciate what those cities have to offer, sort of a staycation, so to speak. One of the things that visitors really like, and of course we like as well because we take it in on a regular basis, is that each city has its own uniqueness. It has its own unique sense of place, its own history, its own collection of artists, its own specific kinds of architecture, its own kinds of restaurants. It's got its own personality, and that is really cool. When I think about some of what is happening here in coastal Mississippi, some of the things that are happening here, it just continues to be so positive for what our future, and the fact that we're continually focusing on creating even a better sense of place so that we can draw more millennials here, as my son Justin and I talked about recently, as we draw more millennials here because they want to go to a place where they can live, work, and play in a similar area. We've heard a lot of talk recently about Carl the Rooster, and certainly we're going to talk about that a bit here in just a second. We're going to have the mayor of Ocean Springs, Kenny Holloway, in the first section, and then Cynthia Dodge Sutton in the second section. She's with the chamber and the Visit Ocean Springs group. But I wanted to share something with you. I don't look at this. I think it's sad what happened to Carl, and certainly that happened. But I think there's what it creates is a positive opportunity for us to focus on this thing in Ocean Springs that sort of invited these roosters to town. And I want to share a couple of things with you. I spent a lot of time with my family in Key West. It's kind of a place we enjoy to visit. And I came across this piece written by Bonnie Gross talking about the Key West chickens. And it said, noisy, colorful, just like Key West. And here's what she wrote. Key West has a lot of offbeat charms, but one of my most favorite has always been the chickens, dubbed gypsy chickens by the locals. The feral fowl that frequent the streets and alleys of Key West seem like the perfect metaphor for Key West. Historic, colorful, sort of wild, a little noisy, and occasionally annoying. You don't have to work hard to spot Key West chickens. You hear them crowing and see them strutting everywhere. The colorful roosters and their mother hens, followed by lines of tiny chicks, weave in and out of traffic and through outdoor cafes all over town. Key West residents call them the gypsy chickens. I've always known about those, but it's kind of part of the charm and character of Key West. Then there's this piece. I was doing a little bit of research. I wanted to find what have people written about the roosters in Ocean Springs. And my friend Joe Cloyd and his group of partners who formed the Roost Boutique Hotel in Ocean Springs. The Roost is actually kind of named after what they referred to as the Band of Roosters. And here's what it said. It all started when, several years ago, a small band of roosters popped up onto the scene in downtown Ocean Springs. Stories circled on their origin, but regardless of where they came from, it was apparent that the community of Ocean Springs wanted to welcome the roosters to stay, or at least most of them did. Drama in the early days of these beautiful birds' arrival was prevalent. From newspaper covers to alderman meetings and hundreds of emails to city officials, the decision was made that the roosters could stay, or at least, as mentioned above, most of them. Our rooster friends became quickie novelty in the downtown area with Carl. Now, this is the first iteration of Carl. The most recent Carl that died is Carl the second, earning the most fame and even his own Facebook page. Rooster sightings, photographs, and questions for the yard bird and his friends have become another unique attraction to our coastal town. The General and Randy can be seen roaming the streets of Ocean Springs today with some other friends. Carl, the most well-known member of the band, unfortunately seemed to let the fame go to his head. His overzealous behavior ended up with a trip to rehab in Vancleave, from which he very sadly may never return. At the time, Mayor Connie Moran said Carl was placed on a performance improvement plan during his weekend retreat in Vancleave, and she expects improved Rooster demeanor. Okay, and then it went on to say, we like to think that he made it to Key West, where the Roosters can probably get away with a little bit more. Regardless, he will never be forgotten. Well, I think the same can be said for the most recent Carl iteration. And it's interesting the way a chicken, in this case a rooster, can bring so much focus on a city. If you go to Facebook and do a search on Rooster Ocean Springs, you'll be overwhelmed with the buzz that Carl created. You go, this is really not just local, it's around the country. Same thing can be true if you do the same kind of search on the internet. And, from adversity comes a positive opportunity. It's unfortunate what happened to Carl, but I really want to focus on, what does this say about the city? I'm sure the city continues to have challenges. We may talk about that a bit, but I want to invite my friend Kenny Holloway into the conversation and say, I bet you, when you became mayor of the city of Ocean Springs, you never expected that something like Carl the Rooster could end up taking so much of your time.
No, I've never imagined it, Ricky. We have spent a lot of time in the past, week and a half, kind of dealing with this situation. It's very unfortunate. In no way does the city of Ocean Springs condone violence to any animal. Like you said, it's an unfortunate situation, but we're trying to deal with it and manage it to where it doesn't get out of hand. From an emotional standpoint, I've always said the citizens of Ocean Springs are very passionate citizens, and this is another example of that, the passion from the citizens of Ocean Springs.
It brings into focus a lot of things. How people reacted to the death of Carl. It brought focus on the fact that there were even chickens in downtown Ocean Springs. Sort of this Key West comparison. And it raises questions about the path that the city has gone through to have roosters and to sort of maybe manage the number, but also to protect them. I mean, it's a multi-dimensional kind of thing, isn't it?
It is. It's unique. We have an ordinance about raising chickens for eggs in the city, and those fowl have to be maintained in a fence or a cage. Carl got a reprieve from that, and he seemed to just wonder where he wanted to go, and didn't bother anybody. He just kind of moved around. I mean, I've got roosters that come through my yard in the morning. By the way, I live right next door to the roost, and so I'm well aware of what Joe and them are talking about. But we have some birds here and there, and quite frankly, we've got a few more that have popped up in the past week that I've noticed on my morning walks that we've got some new families of birds that have moved in.
Well, what that tells me is that people sort of in honoring Carl, who have people who have chickens, have maybe brought them downtown and released them. That's what that tells me. So it could create an interesting additional challenge. Not that you guys haven't been through this before, but it could. And what's your message about that?
Well, we understand, like I said, the passion of this, but we we don't want a chicken population or rooster population that is going to cause an issue,
Yeah.
and that can. We have an employee that just got back from Hawaii, and evidently there are just tons of roosters in Hawaii, and the natives over there are trying to, or the residents of Hawaii are trying to get people to take the birds with them when they fly home. So, they can get out of hand, but we've got a lot of important things to worry about in Ocean Springs, and we'd like to move on from the rooster conversation, right? At some point, pretty soon. We've talked with the concerned citizens, and we're working together to settle things down and to move on.
When we come back, we'll finish this part of the conversation about Carl the Rooster. Actually, you saw an alligator recently at Point Cadet. That's kind of part. Animals are part of our gig here in coastal Mississippi. We'll have that conversation and also find out what the latest is in the city. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Mayor Kenny Holloway. Welcome back to Coast Vue. We're talking about really sort of the domino effect of Carl the Rooster's death in Ocean Springs. And I believe that a lot of the domino effect that will happen as a result of Carl's death, that this issue as it relates to Carl will begin to subside. And what will be left in a lot of people's minds is, outside of some very passionate people in Ocean Springs who hate that this happened and want to respond in different kinds of ways. The reality is that most people will have the opportunity to be introduced to Ocean Springs as this charming, eclectic city. And, the passionate people that we talk about, one of the things that bring it charm. And we've always known that was the fact. People care deeply about the city of Ocean Springs. Do you see potentially some new ordinances coming out of this, or, what do you think, a month from now, where are we going to be?
I don't think we haven't discussed any new ordinances. We've got ordinances for farming eggs and stuff like that with chickens.
Yeah.
But the free range chicken, the roosters, I guess what we'll call them. We just kind of let them be as long as they don't cause any trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that'd be cool. So I'm telling you, people are going to come to town and they're going to ask people, where are the roosters? I want to see the roosters.
If they want to drink coffee with me in the morning on my patio, they can see the roosters.
Yeah, well, that's interesting.
I've got a couple that come right through the front yard every day and through the backyard.
I remember we have a really cool place that we like to stay at the foot of Duval Street in Key West, and if you don't have like a noisemaker inside your room, you can hear the cockadoos early in the morning. I'm an early riser, so it's not a big deal. But have you dealt with some cockadoodle doing early in the morning that people didn't like?
Every morning I can hear them. Every morning.
Yeah.
If you live downtown, it's just part of it. I mean, people don't. It's kind of like the train,
Yeah.
The train comes through at 1:30 and 4:30. I know it because I've heard it, but I don't hear it any longer. I sleep right through it. So.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it's probably a prank that went bad, and it is what it is. And, life will go on, and the city, there will be benefits to the city. And that, that's unfortunate, but I think a lot of focus on the city now, which is not a bad thing. So, you posted a picture of an alligator at Point Cadet Marina, and again, people shared it and liked it and whatever. But it's just another reminder, man. I think about the ospreys and the bald eagles around my house on Back Bay. I mean, you don't have to look far to find the impact of critters in coastal Mississippi. But you saw it right there, and you wouldn't think of an alligator at Point Cadet Marina, but it was there, wasn't it?
Yep, it was there. It was right at dusk, and you go down there to get away in the afternoon and sit on the easy ed and watch the sunsets, which have been fabulous lately. The sunsets are amazing.
Oh yeah,
down there. And one of the transient boaters who's staying there now said, "Hey, there's a gator." I got up, and sure enough, gator was just kind of meandering itself through the marina. I don't know if he came from the island or he came, from the bay, but and the eagles. I walk in the morning, like I said, and on Front Beach, there's a couple spots that you can see a couple bald eagles that sit out there on the perch of a couple pylons, and they're fishing. Hawks and ospreys, like you said. It's really unique and neat. The wildlife on coastal Mississippi.
We're so lucky to live here. Again, it's paradise. I had a recent trip like last weekend to Horn Island, and we planned to go, but the weather got bad in the morning, but by midday it was better. So we decided, why not? We'll go. Fishing was kind of slow. Jordan did catch a 4+ pound speck, which was nice to see. But you get out there and you see the beauty of the sand and the dunes, and the water was clear and ospreys flying all over the place. I mean, and you and I have talked about this many times before, but you really get a strong sense of what Walter Anderson loves so much. The way these landscapes define us. I mean, we are so lucky to live here, aren't we?
We are. And yesterday we were over. Yesterday, the day before, we were over with a group in the Civic Center, the community center next to the Walter Anderson Museum. And if you look at the murals on the wall there, everything we're talking about basically through this interview is on a wall over there. The different animals and the raccoons and so forth. So it's Ocean Springs. One thing I haven't seen in Ocean Springs lately that I used to see quite a bit was fox. We used to see some foxes running around. I know in your neighborhood, because I used to live over that way, there's pretty good many of them, but I don't know where they've gone here.
I took a picture a few years ago of a really big red fox drinking out of my pool, but they're really they're kind of like a deer. They're very stealthy. You'll get a good glance at one every now and then, but they usually do their roaming at nighttime. In this case, it was early it was in the morning. It was starting to get light, and there he was, this big bushy red fox, drinking out of the pool. So cool. Hey, so okay, take the roosters aside, because I know that dominates a lot of your time these days. You got a lot you're working on, don't you?
We do, Ricky. We're awfully busy. We spent a lot of time in Jackson through the legislative session. We've got a great group of coastal legislators. I mean, our legislators, and as you well aware, didn't always get along, but I think throughout the coast right now, they're all in step on what's important. And what's important for Ocean Springs is important for Gulfport and Pascagoula and Biloxi. So we spent a lot of time up there. I joke that, if I'd have spent one more day in the Capitol, I might have got an office in it.
I had Senator Jeremy England on recently, and he said that they tend to agree about 80% of the time. That's pretty dramatic, really, if you think about it.
It is, and in Jackson County in particular, and Jeremy's senator that has part of Ocean Springs. I think Jeremy is a young, bright, rising star in the Senate, and we've got some really senior senators and senior House members that really stepped up. We after we get our ARPA funds, and if they're matched the way we anticipate, Ocean Springs would have gotten just under $23 million of direct impact funds through the session, and that's just just to the hard work of the senators and the representatives of our area, and every time I get a chance to thank them, Bryce and Jeremy and John, and Manley and Hank. I mean, it goes on and on. They all work together, and it was great to see.
It was, and you said from the beginning, it ain't sexy, but it's necessary. Other cities had the opportunity. Biloxi is an example. to rebuild all of their infrastructure just about as a result of Katrina. Ocean Springs certainly got some money, but there were big needs in Ocean Springs, weren't there?
Well, that's what, and Fofo and I, we've got a great relationship, and we kind of rib each other every chance we get. And I just said, hey, Fofo, you had your city rebuilt after Katrina. You don't need any of this ARPA money. Just send us your ARPA money and let us rebuild our city. He don't think that, but it's worth a shot.
No, you know this because you love Biloxi, and you're the same. You spend a lot of time working hard to raise the bar. He spends a lot of time raising the bar. He believes that the coast is in this together. But when it comes to his projects and what he wants to do, you better get the heck out of the way, man, because he's going to bulldoze over you. He's so passionate about it. And you feel the same way, don't you?
Yeah, we're not going to lay down for him, that's for sure, but we're going to have some friendly competition.
But it is cool to come into the city knowing you have tens of millions of dollars in infrastructure needs. Infrastructure is what provides the opportunity to be able to do economic development, and to have that goal, and in a really short period of time. A lot of confluence of the pandemic and all this other stuff start to address some of that. It's really important, isn't it?
Well, when this board was elected and I was elected, and we had our swearing in ceremony, in my speech, I said that this group of people, the 7 members and myself, will either be able to pat ourselves on the back because we took office at the right time, or we'll be kicking ourselves in the butt because we didn't take advantage of the resources that are here and being in office at the right time.
So yeah, I agree. And you did. And you stayed very focused on that from the very beginning, building the foundation that will enable the city to build and really pursue its economic goals. Hey, it's been great to catch up with you, Kenny. Hope you're doing well, and have a great day, my friend.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll have Cynthia Dobbs Sutton from the Ocean Springs Chamber. We'll see you after this.